Also, okay, just got the recording going. So I'm gonna go ahead and start admitting everybody in, okay? You good?
Yeah, good. Go.
Okay. All right.
The end of the day for me. I did this the other day at like 1 o'clock.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Oh, Stacy's coming. Let me admit Stacy in. So we had a huge response to this. I think when I just checked it, we had like 94 reservations for it. So I'm going to give a few minutes before we get started, just to give everybody time to hop in. Sometimes people come in late all the time too, so that's all right. If they pop in a little bit late, I'll just go ahead and let them in. How's everybody doing today? Is everybody good? I'm trying to I'm trying to bring my spunk out.
And that's so funny. Your last name, I did not realize it. My avatar, my cat,
Mhm.
his name was Winter.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, you know me, I'm a total cat person.
I am not. I'm a dog.
Are you? It's like either one or the other. It's always
It is
you're either,
definitely one or the other.
yep, one or the other. Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I did a whole week's worth of puppy sitting a few weeks
I
ago.
did, and I loved it. I know you didn't. I know you weren't keen.
Never again. Never again. Nope. Do not send me any puppies. Mm-mm. Nope. I'll have all the cats in the world, but don't you give me no puppies.
Oh,
No puppies.
I love
All right. So everybody's kind of starting to trickle in here. I'm gonna get the questions pulled. Well, I hope I am. Let me see. We've got a lot of questions, lots and
that.
lots and lots of questions. So let me get this pulled up on my other screen. All right, where are we at? 12:03. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started just because I know that Kaz and I are both kind of on a time crunch today. We both allotted about 90 minutes for this. So with all of the questions that we've had, I know it can definitely take a good little bit of time for us to get through. So we're just going to try to touch base on each one of them. And I'll go ahead and let Kaz do just a little bit of an introduction. I'm sure most of you do know her, but on the off chance you don't, I'll allow Kaz, to take over for just a minute and give a little bit of an introduction.
Okay.
All
Now,
you.
what now?
Just giving you a minute just to give a little bit of an introduction. I
Okay.
feel like everybody probably does know you, but
Yeah.
just in case.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, guys, I'm Kaz Windsor. I own the business Sculpt and Change Therapies. This is a business that was born because of my illnesses, which include lipedema. I got frustrated. I got very frustrated with my national health system when I was being put forward for funding for surgery, and they called at the last minute and called it cosmetic and cancelled the surgery. I then went to see a private consultant. I was quoted 58,000 for the liposuction, but then it turned into brachioplasty, abdominoplasty, thigh lift, which you can all see from my body that I didn't need and wouldn't have needed because of what I've done. And I got angry, and I got really angry to the point where I had to hit the floor. I had to hit the floor. I had to fall really, really hard. I said this the other day in another live, but I said, I had to fall really, really hard and find myself and find what I could do for myself. And I'm really grateful now that I never had any of those surgeries, because had I have had those, this would never have been born. I would never be the person that I am. I would never have the qualifications and the knowledge and the know-how. I wouldn't be the person that puts themselves out like Sarah selflessly on social media, for the world to judge us and criticize us, and try to help as many people as we possibly can. Give them the gift of being able to love themselves as themselves for themselves. So that's me.
That's you. And advocate for ourselves, advocating for
And
ourselves.
advocate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is so important. And I had, kind of a similar story to Kaz's. After I had been just a few years into my weight loss journey, and had lost a lot of the weight, I was like, okay, now it's time that I've got to start looking into search. Oh, we've got somebody. If you guys could do me a favor and just make sure you're muted. I'll mute her. But everything that I was reading at the time was like, it's surgery, it's surgery, it's surgery. And I was like, okay, I've got all this weight off of me now, but this lipedema is going to be stuck. There's nothing I can do about it. And so I did the same, and I ended up consulting with a surgeon. And I was also quoted close to around $50,000 for my lower legs, for my upper legs, and then just like you mentioned, the thigh lift. And I was like, yeah, single mom of four, not going to happen. So that was when I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try and do my very best with this and managing it as best as I possibly can. I started trying to learn as much as I possibly could. And like Kaz, today I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful that I didn't go that route with the surgery, because if I had, I would never know of all these different, ways that we can effectively manage this condition and doing it conservatively. And we have so many more options, than what we've been told, and all of the research out there. When you're Google searching, how can I manage lipedema, or whatever you might be looking for, surgery, 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 surgery. So I know Kaz and I are both very, very passionate, in trying to change that dynamic and help women to understand that they do have a lot more options, right there at their fingertips. So I'm super excited that we're going to touch on all of this today. It's such important information that has to get out there. Women with this condition have to know that they do have more options, that there is hope. So very, very excited for us to be able to talk, more in depth about this today. Um, so before we get started, does anybody have anything that they wanted to kind of just like, is there anything super pressing and important that anyone would like to ask? Just kind of before we get started and start moving into these questions. Anyone? All right. Well, going once, going twice. Kaz, I'm going to leave this. This is more for you. How can we do somatic work, and what are the techniques? That's more.
So somatic work is trauma healing, and I went into somatic work in February to become a trauma healer in somatic exercise. And what it led to was me opening up an absolute whirlwind of shit for myself, that I then had to go on and work with a trauma healer myself. I had to go and see, I actually went and saw a neuroscience narcissist abuse counselor, because it brought up so much of the trauma that I've been dealing with for the last 20 years, dealing with these illnesses. So my advice is, don't do somatic work unless you are strong enough to take the trauma that's going to come from it. Because if you're not, it will floor you and it will make you feel worse than what you feel already. If you're going to do something like that, then please reach out to somebody who is actually trained. Don't do these YouTube videos or TikToks that you see for somatic work. With us, we've got so much inbuilt trauma because we've got a disease in our bodies. And I am going to talk about this later, but I totally believe that the trauma manifests the disease.
Yeah.
And because of that, we need to work on the trauma to release the disease. And that's what I've done a lot of work on. And I know Sarah has as well. But you have to do that with somebody who understands. You cannot put yourself in harm's way. And had I not have known what was happening, I would have not, it would have been bad. But I knew that I needed to go and get help. And in doing so, I've actually opened up a lot of channels to healing things that I thought I didn't need to deal with because I thought I'd already dealt with them. So yeah, if you're going to do somatics, get somebody who understands what they're doing. Don't follow anything on social media, YouTube, none of those just videos showing you what to do. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you definitely have to be in a place where you're very, very ready to face your traumas and you're ready to really dive deep into them and to work through them. And you guys know me, like I'm so like natural. And I know that this is not something that everybody will probably agree with. But I can say for me that I actually started with THC gummies. And I know that's like kind of a taboo topic, but when I started using just THC gummies, you would not believe the way that it actually allowed me to start like facing my trauma and actually being able to work through it to break it all down. And I did a lot of that over the course of 2023. And I mean, you look at my legs today compared to where they were like 2021, 2022. And I mean, the difference is just absolutely incredible. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have allowed my body to de-stress so much. And I'm not holding on to and carrying all that trauma because women with lipedema, we all carry trauma. We have so much trauma because we knew from a very early age that something about us was wrong, something about us was wrong. And we start that whole process with all of that trauma we carried into our adult years, and it leads to just further trauma. And I'm sure that a lot of you, just looking back and reflecting on your own lives, if you're thinking about different points when you were going through really, really traumatic and stressful events, you probably recall that your lipedema got worse. So
The thing is with trauma is that trauma is disguised as being, it has to be something abusive, it has to be grief.
Right.
Trauma can be you get a text message from a friend and it isn't something that you want to hear and it hits you. It's all about how your cortisol reacts to those events. So, like, it doesn't have to be something big that causes your cortisol, your stress hormone, to get out of control and upset the balance inside the body, which then progresses with our lipedema. So when you look at trauma, don't look at it as something that is just something big because it's all the small stuff. You've got to look at all the small stuff as well. That's where we really have the issues with progression because we have so many people that will turn around and say, well, I haven't really had any trauma in my life. I haven't really had pregnancy is a trauma, birth is a trauma. Like you have to look at things like that and realize that those are things that actually cause these that cause the progression and for the fat cells themselves to get out of control because we're focused so much on that stress hormone. Bringing that stress hormone down, bringing your cortisol levels down will help you to heal through and release a lot of the trauma. But when the question comes up, I'll talk to you about fascia because fascia is where your trauma is stored.
Yep, for sure. So this would be pretty quick. Top 5 tips to reverse lipedema. So you guys know where I stand on this. I'm always just saying it over and over. Nutrition is the foundation for me. How we fuel our bodies. What we put into our bodies is the start of it. It's the foundation. to beginning, the process of reversing this condition. For me, it's been nutrition, it's been movement, it's been compression, it's been high protein, very low carb. But I know on Kaz's end of it, she kind of has a different approach as far as like the fascia and everything. So why don't you go ahead and talk to them a little bit about that?
Okay. So for me, nutrition and movement definitely are in the top three. But your fascia is where you've got the problems. Because fascia is a connective tissue that is just, with lipedema, it is just so traumatized. It holds your trauma, it holds all of your emotions, it becomes very sticky and clumpy, and it holds on to the lipedema and it holds on to the fat cells, and it doesn't allow for anything to move unless you treat the fascia yourself or you go to somebody and have the fascia treated. Once you start releasing, and the other thing is as well, once you start releasing, you'll start to feel your old traumas. You won't know what it is, but you'll feel it. And it's because your body is releasing what you're holding on to. And by releasing what you're holding on to, you're healing your body.
Healing your body.
And fascia is the thing. 95% of your body is covered by fascia. Your organs are covered by fascia. Your all your supplies, your systems, your lymphatic system is caged in fascia. So like your fats, your natural fats, your abnormal fats, the lipedema, the blood supply, your lymphatics are actually caged in this traumatized tissue. So how the hell is it supposed to get out of there if we don't clear the tissue?
Very now, and I think about this a lot too because I haven't done any fascia treatment, so
No.
I think for me, I'm often like, okay, sorry, I meant to mute somebody else. For me, I'm often like, okay, with me, not having you've had so many people that have had incredible results and yourself as well in
Yeah.
your fascia treatment. And then you have somebody like me who hasn't done any fascia treatment, but who has kind of taken a different approach. So I just kind of want you guys to keep that in mind that there's so many layers to this. There's so many different components.
There are many, many layers to this. But the
Yes.
layers that are there are that we've all got to take on board that every single one of us is different. We've all got lipedema, but we've all got a different DNA and genetic structure. And so for some people, certain things are going to work, and for others, it won't. And going back to you and the fact that you've been able to get your legs down to the size that they are and where they are, as a therapist, I have studied your legs and I absolutely can see areas where you've asked me before about fascia, using tools for fascia. And there are areas of your legs that I can see that are traumatized with fascia, but you've managed to do a lot of this by yourself. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that you've been pushing the lymphatics, you've been pushing the muscle against the lymphatics, against the fascia. You are a beast at going into the gym and doing that on a 5 day 6 day week, but the full truth that we've got out there is that 99% of women are not going to do that.
Right.
And so there are absolutely, you have got to look at every option. But
Exactly.
one of the things that I want you to all just take away from today is just keep thinking about that connective tissue and why that connective tissue is so traumatized. And once you start working that connective tissue, it will release. You will get the release. I'm not the only one that's talking about it. I was the only one who was talking about it, but there are so many people talking about it now. And it is a functioning, well known fact that fascia is something that will, like, once it's worked with, once you do the work with fascia, once you do the treatments that are needed, it can help you get your mobility back. It can help you with all sorts of things. So please bear in mind, like Sarah has been extremely lucky that you've been able to get to that level without having those certain things. But I do know that you have had issues with your knees and bits and pieces. but you're doing and working ways for yourself that work. Whereas for me, I'll go and sit in a tub of cold water because that helps my mobility. And it helps my mobility, it decreases if there's any inflammation. All of us as well have got comorbidities. Some of us might not have comorbidities, but I've got a lot of comorbidities. And so I have to take that into factor with just not just treating lipedema. I've got to treat all those illnesses that work alongside it. And there's an awful lot of women who don't understand that hypermobility pretty much goes hand in hand with lipedema now. That's the science behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking about that the other day when I was talking about my daughter, who I'm pretty positive, like 99% sure is going to have lipedema. And I mean, it's kind of interesting watching her because I know what's happening. I know what we're dealing with now, and at 4 years old, I was taking her to Cincinnati Children's Hospital because she was always complaining that her legs hurt. And, I got her in there and she's hypermobile. So, it's very interesting now to kind of see, I didn't put those two together, 6 years ago when she was much littler, but now.
If you look at the genetics.
Yeah.
If you look at the genetics, like the standard of care, if you look at the American standard of care and you look at the genetics, it says that the parent will pass it on. So even if you've got like a very low score in hypermobility, then that can go to the child. Yeah. It is a genetic, it is a science behind the genetics that go alongside that. And the standard of care kind of says, and I'm in the UK and I run my business by the standard of care for the United States. But it says in there that every woman who is diagnosed with lipedema should be looked for venous insufficiency and hypermobility, because venous insufficiency runs in every single one of us.
Yes.
And if you've seen some of the work that some of the consultants do, Karen Herbst in particular, if you look at the subcuticle, I can't remember what it's called. If you look at the subclinical, that's it, subclinical YouTube she did about venous insufficiency, it explains that the vein going up the middle of our legs is being strangled by the lipedema, which is why we end up with so much venous insufficiency, right? Yep. And it works in two ways. You're either born and it starts at the ankle and it works up, or it starts from the top and it starts to work down. So a lot of women are born with this, and you can see it form in the ankle cuff. And then
sorry, I just muted her.
And if you and the other way, it starts from the hip and it goes down, but it's strangling motion all the way down with that main vein that's going through. So then you've got to say to yourself, well, there's where you're not getting oxygen and blood. That's why we get cold so much, because there's nothing going to those areas. And the reason why, your fascia.
Fascia. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And I agree with that a lot. That is one thing I will say is I definitely do have the venous insufficiency, and I've got this huge gigantic vein that runs like it. I mean, even when I'm just wearing leggings, you can see that vein like so well coming through there. So yes, they most definitely.
So like varicose.
Yeah, go hand in hand with one another for sure. Mm-hmm. So one of the other questions that we had, having been recently diagnosed, I would like to know, what are the chances of getting lipedema under control using diet and exercise? I'm really struggling at the moment, and any help will be gratefully received. So I'll touch on that one just because I know that's kind of more, the area that I work in. So as far as what are the chances of getting lipedema under control, anything that you do is going to help. Any changes that you make to the way that you are fueling your body, it's going to do something. I tell the women that I work with all the time, you can't expect that you're going to have these major, huge results. This is a lifestyle. And it takes time. It takes time to really develop, excuse me, to develop the lifestyle that is necessary to both manage this condition, as well as potentially reversing this condition. And I think it's incredible now, you know, with lipedema movement and fitness being active for the last couple of years, and so many women catching on to the fact that nutrition does play such a vital role in getting this condition under control. We're now seeing women that are coming in every week and they're like, this is what I've been doing. Beautiful. Oh, sorry, let me mute her. You know, and they're saying, this is what I've been doing. I switched to a carnivore diet. I switched to a keto diet, and they're all coming back and reporting that they're having big results, you know, in comparison to when they tried all these other fad diets that are out there. But what it really boils down to is reducing that inflammation. We have got to reduce that inflammation. And reducing that inflammation starts with what you're putting into your body. And that is exactly why I now live by, you know, a nutrition plan that is lower in carbs so that I can keep my inflammation reduced, but also high protein. Eating a high protein diet has helped me immensely. And even in just building muscle, I've seen muscle that I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought I even had muscle there. And now I'm starting to see it come through because my inflammation is starting to lower so much too. But also getting that, you know, protein into my body, and a higher amount of protein is also helping me to strengthen my body as well, and helping me to build that muscle, which is so, so, so important for us to have. So I always tell everybody, you don't have to start out on an A+ nutrition plan. You don't have to follow it to the T, but start out by making littler changes. You know, if you can manage to cut bread, if you can manage to cut rice, you know, there's like those 5 main white foods that I cut in the beginning that I always suggest to everybody, but it's taken me a few years to really get to this point today, of being so strict with the way that I eat. So, you know, as far as what are the chances, definitely, you know, you have a great chance of losing weight and starting to get it under control if you're fueling your body correctly, and moving your body too.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So where I agree completely with Sarah, because I absolutely follow a a high protein, sorry, low carb diet, and have done since I was keto 2018, 2019, and it just didn't sit with me. It just wasn't for me. And so I've been high protein, low carb ever since. One of the things that I come across in this clinic, and one of the things that I do come across with a lot of women, is that it isn't always as easy as that to lose weight. And the reason for that is because of your tissue. And I've often said to people when they've gone to see a dietitian or they've gone and seen somebody medically, go in there and say to them, well, what about my fascia? What about the fascia? Why is my fascia not responding? And they won't give you an answer because they absolutely don't understand it. But if your fascia is really chunks, if you have got really chunked fascia inside your body that is holding on to the lipedema and the natural fat, and it's like completely traumatized and torn up, and you can't release the natural fat, you won't lose weight. And that's why you've got to look at your fascia. So for some people, it is so simple. You will be able to lose weight with the right nutrition and movement. But I do see that a lot of people have a lot of frustration because they can't lose that weight because of the tissue. And so it goes hand in hand. And that's why I came up with, as much as I could for what I do in this clinic, something that you could do at home. And that's why I always suggest to people use the massage gun, use the piece that I've suggested, and use the massage gun. And women now who are doing things like this, who couldn't lose weight, are now physically able to lose weight because they've started to clean the tissue. The tissue has then released the lipedema, and it's released your natural fat, and your body can then metabolize your natural fat. Your lipedema is not going to go anywhere necessarily, but it is going to reduce, like Sarah said, it will reduce the inflammation, but we know for a fact we can't take lipedema out of the body unless you take it out through surgery. But you can reduce the symptoms completely down to a different stage. But sometimes it's not just the lipedema that's the issue. The issue is in your tissue with the fascia, and you need to work that to be able to release it. Remember what I've just said, everybody, please. It is a cage that is encaging the disease. You need to open the door of the cage so that you can let that through and you can start to move and heal through that process.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I mean, it really, really, truly is. And I'm glad you did mention that as far as like using the massage gun. The next question that I was going to go to was best ways to fascia blast with lipedema and best tips for menopausal women.
Okay, so fascia blasting. The amount of messages I get about the fascia blaster, I can't even tell you. So I'm going to be honest right now. Don't start fascia blasting straight away. Use the gun. Use the gun. Start to desensitize that fascia. Start to use tools that are less invasive, because the way I use the fascia blaster is non-invasive. But I've done conferences, I've come up against women who have come up to me and they've shown me what they're doing. And they're not doing what I'm telling you to do. What I tell you to do with fascia tools is to do it light and briskly. When I say light, I mean barely touching the skin. You've got 8 layers of fascia that you need to work through. There's not just one layer of skin, one layer of tissue. It's completely junked. So you've got to start from the top and you've got to work down, but you have to do it so lightly that you work those layers. The idea is not to bruise the body. I'm not looking for this. I don't want you to bruise or cause trauma. What I want you to do is be able to work the tissue, smooth through the tissue, so that you can release the tissue. Working with the blasters comes after you've been working with the gun and some of the other tools. Then I'd say to a client, or say to anybody online, if that's what they're talking to me about, or any of my online clients, I would say to them, then that is the time when you are ready to start using the blaster, once you understand the science behind it and what fascia truly is. Because it's too easy to pick up these tools and just go, oh, I'm going to start ripping in. And then I get the messages of, I'm bruised, I don't know what I've done, I'm hurt. And nobody's telling you to do that. I understand the frustration, because we think if we go harder, we're going to get rid of the problem. You need to go light and brisk. It is a journey. It's not a race. You cannot overnight clear this. I've been doing it since 2017. Think about that. There's more years doing fascia blasting and working with fascia and understanding fascia. And my body's got to where I've got. 2021 was the biggest wake up call for me because of COVID, because of us being stuck in isolation. My body started to recoil, and I didn't know what that was. And thankfully, through my physio and understanding, he turned around to me and he said, "It's not lipedema, it's your fascia." He said, "Your fascia's fucked." Sorry, excuse my French. That's typical of me. And he turned around and said that, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, it's not the lipedema." And he said, look, if I pull at this, if I pull at that, it's stuck. We need to move it. Now, everybody that I know, lipedema community, was saying to me, "Oh, you're progressing. It's beginning to progress. You've got a problem. It's progressing." And so because you're being told that all the time, you start to believe it, and you start to panic, and fear will creep in, and you start to think, "Oh my God, what am I doing wrong? I've been doing my high protein, low carb. I've been doing the movement. I'm trying to keep myself healthy. And all of the time this is progressing." No, it wasn't. It was not that at all. And I teach that in this room. It was nothing to do with the lipedema. It was to do with the fascia. It started to recoil because I wasn't able to live a normal life. And the reason why it recoils on us is because the fascia within the lipedema and within the illness itself is far more traumatized than it would ever be on a normal person. Plus, we're dealing with joint hypermobility. And when that happens, everything just gets tight. Like there could be days back then where I wake up and I couldn't even stand when I got out of bed. And it wasn't until I understood that when we go to sleep, even though we're asleep, our tissue's not asleep. It is tightening the whole time. And so when you wake up and you feel that tightness, it's because everything has started to recoil. And that is why I am hot on consistency when it comes to self care, because you cannot give up on this. Taking a week off or 2 weeks off, when people say to me, oh, I've been doing it for 2 or 3 days. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. You need to carry that consistency and carry it on for months if you really want that result. And it is something that you've got to get your head around and make it work as like your beauty regime or you're going to the gym or whatever. But the thing that I have managed to get down for everybody is that you only need to do that type of self-care for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Give that to yourselves. Like that's all I'm asking you to do. If you want to go to the gym and you want to work out, great. But there are some people who go to the gym and work out, and afterwards the fascia starts to recoil and you start to stiffen. That is when you do your self-care. Listen to your bodies, listen to what you've got going on in your body. Not everybody's going to understand the same information because not everybody's going to have the same issues as you. So listen to yourself and listen to what your body needs.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's so important. I'm so glad that you mentioned, the part about this is a journey and not a race. Because, it's kind of the same thing on my end. I get messages all the time saying, well, I've been doing this for a month now and I'm not seeing these changes. And I'm like, you have to remember that this is a lifestyle that you have to adapt to. And it's a lot of work, and it is a lot of prioritizing yourself. And I spoke on this the other day when I talked about, the fact that I've had people that are like, well, you go to the gym all the time and you're a single mom and you shouldn't take that time away from your kids. Well, what kind of a mommy am I if my body is a mess? If I can't get out of bed in the morning, if I can't properly function, what kind of mom am I? So you really have to put
No,
that.
that's exactly my argument. That's my argument in here when people turn around to me and say, well, I haven't got the time to do it. I said, well, you haven't got the time to be a decent person for the people around you then. You haven't got time.
Yeah.
You have to look at this and I'm gonna be blunt. If
Yes.
you're not working, neither are the people around you who you love.
Nope. Nope.
You've got to put yourself first. It has got to be you who becomes top priority when you're
Yeah.
dealing with these types of illnesses. And it
Yes.
isn't you being selfish, it's actually you being selfless.
Yes.
Because then you're going to give to the people that you love and who are around you on a 24/7 a basis,
Yeah.
and you can give them what they need.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And it just, the other thing too, you guys, is just keeping in mind and remembering that it does take longer for us. This is a longer process for those of us who have this condition. It's not going to happen overnight, and that was one thing I remember in the beginning of my weight loss journey that I was like, well, I can just lose 50 pounds and then I can go back and everything will be fine. I don't have to do all this hard work anymore. Well, once I hit the point of being down 50 pounds, I was like, wait a minute, why would I want to go backwards and reverse everything that I've done, and it's hard to accept that, okay, this is something I have to prioritize for the rest of my life. But when you slowly start to work on it and you accept it and you start building different things into your day, it becomes routine. And it's just,
It does, it literally does.
yeah. And it's not even a question of, is mom going to go to the gym tonight? Mom goes to the gym. Like, everybody knows my schedule. They know, and they know it's because I have to be present. I have to maintain my mobility. And that's only going to come from me doing the things that I'm doing that are preserving my mobility in the long run. So it's just so important to kind of get to that point of accepting that it's a journey, not a race.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody did ask in the chat, what are your thoughts on using melt method or tune-up fitness for fascia release? I'm not familiar with either of those.
I'm not. I tried to have a look at the chat, but whoever asked that, if you're on here, can you let yourself be known?
Yes,
Yeah,
they're both dealing with fascia release programs. They both have come up with a fascia release methods based on using soft foam rollers and balls.
Using balls.
Yes.
Okay, so I have seen that. I have seen that. What that does is it releases, so that's more like fascia exercise. So that will release your fascia. The problem we've got, and which is not understood, is that with fascia and lipedema, with the fascia and the lipedema, right? I'm going to go to I'm going to go, right. So this is your lipedema, right? This is your B, and then you've got your fat around it. Now think of a cage of fascia. You on a normal person, like you're trying to work the fascia, you can do that with stretch exercise. You're trying to release all of this, you're trying to make this smaller, you're trying to desensitize this, and you're trying to move this out of the system so that you can metabolize it. The way to do it is you've got to work the fascia, as in cleaning it. Stretching it is going to help, but it isn't going to release the lipedema. It's just going to stretch through it. Do you see where I'm coming from? You're just going to, it's just in movement. You actually have to treat the fascia to be able to clean the fascia and release it. For you, I think that you need to get the cellulite myth because you're obviously clearly really fascinated by it, and read the cellulite myth and everything it says about fascia, because that will give you every answer that you're looking for. Okay? So I always refer to that as my Bible, and I use it every single day. Like if I'm looking at something, if I'm looking at somebody's legs, for instance, and they're carjacked, or if I'm looking at it and it's fallout, like there's different names for these things. Or if I'm looking at somebody's legs and it's a freak out. And what we mean by freak out is you cannot even grab anything on the skin. It is literally a chunk of tissue that is holding on to the beads and your natural fat underneath the skin. And the only way you can release that is you can try and stretch it as much as you like, but that stretch is not going to release what needs to happen. You need to clean it, you need to treat it. Okay? You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And while we're talking about the fascia and fascia blasting, another question that we had is, if we have a massage gun, hypervolt in my case, what is the most beneficial thing to do with it to stay daily to support lymphatic drainage or even to break up the nodules?
So hypervolt, I would imagine that is hypervolt. You've got the globe. Are you on here who asked that question? Okay. So I've gone through this. Hypervolt are very, very fast guns. My gun, the one that I use and the piece that I use, this is the piece. Can we see that? So like it's a noduled type piece. And we're using it on level 1. You can barely hear that machine going off. And the other thing with it is it's not pressing up and down, it's going side, like it's traveling. I'm traveling through the tissue.
Is that the same tool or is that something different?
This is the massage gun that I use.
That's the one you use. Okay.
Yeah, this is the one that I use. And this is the piece that I refer to using, which has got nodules. It is the closest thing that I found to the face blaster, right? So this is where it all came from, me working with the face blaster, which is a fascia blaster, to finding something quite different and less invasive. And this is the crescent head of the gun. I can see Nita in the group. This is the crescent head of the gun. And this is the nodule piece that I use, but I only use it on a level 1. And the only reason why I use it on a level 1 is I want to go into the tissue. I don't want to go into the muscle. And I literally want to be on the surface of treating that tissue. I don't want to overwork the tissue. And so this is the type of gun that I would say use. The Hypervolt is just too powerful. And I think it's got more of a pumping mechanism to it. And when you're doing that, that's going to do nothing. I've said this, I'm going to do another post on this. When I put another piece on this gun, which I don't have in here, it's over there somewhere. When I put the piece on the gun that is like a ball, you will see it pumping up and down. And whilst that does help the fascia somewhat, it isn't doing what I want it to do. It is literally causing a pumping, it's just causing a pumping mechanism to the tissue rather than treating the tissue by gliding through the tissue. Sorry, there's so many chats going up. I can't keep my thought process because I keep seeing other things come up.
Yeah, because somebody else is asking, does it matter the size of the nodules on the fascia blaster? I have a different brand with bigger nodules.
No, so you've got the face blaster, so if you've got the face blaster, and I've got the Mini 2 here, I've got the larger ones there as well, but these are the different types of nodules. This one I would use to start on the body if you're going to use the fascia blaster. This will start to warm up the fascia. But if you're going to do something like this and you're not familiar with it, and you then follow the process of heating the body up and using the fascia blaster once you've got your skin really hot, and working through those areas of fascia using these types of tools. But like I said before, if you're not familiar with this and you don't know how to use it, then I would suggest using things like the gun, even my newest tool, which is the rollerball glove, which is so non-invasive, and it's absolutely brilliant at working through layers of fascia that are really stuck. This has been a bit of a game changer. But these will eventually, once you get to these are the things that will sculpt you. So don't think of it as the treating, more of the sculpting.
Got it. Yeah. And somebody else, I know you just kind of briefly touched on this, but just to make sure that we kind of dive into it just a little bit, because I know that I've had messages from women who have told me their stories and having really negative effects from fascia blasting. So can you explain just a little bit of when it can become a negative, and when, what they need to be?
When it becomes a negative because you don't know how to use it, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And that's why I say to people, read the book. Go on, read the book. Go and see what Ashley does in her YouTube videos. But the one thing that we've got with lipedema is that lipedema is a loose connective tissue. So we have to understand that term of phrase. It's a loose connective tissue, meaning that compared to normal tissue, it's far looser and it's far more difficult to work with than it is a normal tissue. So working with the blaster has to be something that you really look into and that you really understand before you go down that route. There are lots of conditions that use the blaster, but research it. I am the biggest person for research. I research everything. I do everything. I research it. I go through everything. I go through it again and again and again. And I absolutely know there are groups out there for contraindications towards the fascia blaster. And it's quite funny because I saw something today on Ashley's page, and it was a pros and cons and a myths and facts thing. And I put it in my Google. I put it in my on a Google page because I was interested to read it. And one of the things it was talking about was why do we bruise? And the other thing is consistency. And so she fully admits you can start using the fascia blaster and it feels like you're creating a problem because you're working the tissue. But she's like, you have to commit to 90 days of using the fascia blaster. You are going to come up against areas of using these tools where it might make your legs look different. And if it does make your legs look different, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It actually means it's healing. So you're moving that process, you're healing the body, you're healing the tissue, you're moving the tissue on. So always, always, always research. A lot of people are quick to project negatives. I always say, don't listen to anybody else, listen to yourself, look for the information, or talk to someone who you know is viable and understands what they're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see here.
I'll send that to you, Sarah.
Okay. Somebody asked, when did you see the biggest change in your legs? So I'll just kind of briefly touch on that question. When I lost 170 pounds, my legs most definitely got smaller. They reduced in size, but I still had so much lumpy fat, you know. So whether I had gone from wearing like a size 28 in jeans all the way down to a size 12, but even in those size 12s, my legs were still very lumpy. They were very bumpy. The lipedema was still very, very noticeable. When I saw the biggest change, it's really honestly just been here within this last like year and a half, when I've seen the biggest change. And that really started with sorry, she doesn't have manners. What that really started with for me was what we've already talked about, healing from the trauma, reducing my cortisol levels. That was huge. I mean, that when I just remember like when I was going through that process, and of healing myself, like mentally and emotionally facing my traumas and healing from them, that's when I really started to see changes in my body. And other people did too. And I could still remember seeing people that hadn't seen me for like 6 months, and they were like, oh my gosh, Sarah, like your legs are looking so much different. They don't. And one, there's a kind of a family member of mine. She's like, I don't mean this to be mean, but like, you don't have all that fat on your legs anymore. And I truly believe that that started with the process of healing my body, reducing my cortisol levels. And then when I really dove in on the nutrition side of it and really, really upped my protein and got strict about like a lifestyle that's totally low carb, high protein, it was like fire. I mean, it just exploded. Like the changes in my legs were just huge. So that's kind of how it went for me, Kaz. I know your story's a little bit different.
You had a lot of loose skin though, so you've really toned that with muscle. Like you've really connected your muscle memory there, which is fabulous because you've been able to. Because there's a picture, I think there's a picture in your group which you're not keen on posting yet, but
well, you're talking about the one
the picture of your backside, yeah.
Yeah.
And that for me is the biggest. I've seen that picture and I was like, bloody hell, she's managed to turn all of that into muscle and really tone it up. I mean, that's incredible.
I got it pulled up.
And you've got to be able to give yourself props for that because you can see, like, can you hold it up for me, Han?
Mm-hmm.
So like you can see where Sarah has lost all the weight. You can see the tininess in her waist, but you can also see at the back where she's got all this loose skin. And within all that loose skin is the fascia. And what she's been able to do using muscle memory is create what's on the other side of the screen, which is a completely separate person, which is incredible. Not everybody's going to be able to do that, and so don't think that
Yeah.
you will be able to do that.
Yeah.
But she's been able to do that through muscle memory, which is incredible. Yeah, that
Yes.
one is that you've got to give yourself props for that.
Yes, definitely. I agree. It's crazy. I will say the collagen has definitely helped a ton in that too. I've seen really, really big changes in my legs since I started the collagen. And even though that wasn't like the biggest reason that I did it, but now that I have, I'm really beginning to see the importance also of, collagen for women with lipedema too. And that's been a big, now in this particular picture, I'm like,
And I think that that is like, so the thing with collagen, oh God, this has been a thrown around thing for me for the past year because if you've got hypermobility, it's a very bad idea to take collagen because if you've got hypermobility, what you're doing is adding to a faulty collagen. However, I have decided to go against all the odds of what everybody's been telling me, and I've started taking a very hydrolyzed clean collagen,
clean collagen.
which is a type 3 and 4 bovine collagen.
Mhm.
And the reason why I did it because I wanted to see what I can do for my hypermobility. At the end of the day, I'm a 9 out of 9 for hypermobility, and that's the highest score you can get. So I have real issues with my joints. And whilst I'm not necessarily seeing that pick up at the moment, the difference I'm seeing in my skin is somewhat like incredible. But I
Yeah,
do think that goes alongside my self-care routine.
sure.
So that is definitely something that goes there. But it wasn't till I wouldn't say it was a couple of months ago that I was doing the research, which is why I came out with a particular post. Um, and lipedema doesn't have any collagen or elastin at all. And that really threw me because a lot of people come to me and say to me when they start using these tools, when they start cleaning fascia, when they start looking at those different types of self-care, I get the messages where I'm like, oh, where I was really tight, I'm really loose.
Mhm.
You're gonna be. We've got a loose connective tissue,
Yeah,
but that looseness means that you're healing.
yeah,
And so unfortunately, it's something we've got to take on board. It is a loose connective tissue. And if you think about it, that is why we've got so many issues with our joints because there is a tissue that is just literally in the body hanging around. It's not supported, right? Because there is no collagen and elastin in
right.
that particular tissue. And so
Yeah,
if you think that hypermobility has a faulty collagen and elastin, and the experts, so called, keep saying that if we put collagen in, then it adds to the fault of the problem. I was willing to take the risk just to see what would happen. I took that risk at the beginning of February because I got to a point where I was like, I need to see if something can change here. Like I know that I can deal with lipedema. I know I've dealt with lymphedema, Derkums, and everything else. I'm on a mission to try and heal hypermobility, and I know that it's not something that is necessarily um, there's any evidence that proves that theory. But there must be something out there that can connect those areas
yeah,
of being able to strengthen those joints. We know that we can strengthen the muscle behind the joints, I mean, around the joints, which is what I do, which is what Sarah does. But it is something to do with the faulty collagen and elastin, how we're able to move forward from that process.
yeah. I think it's important that you mentioned too, also taking a hydrolyzed collagen and one that actually can be absorbed by the body
Exactly,
as
clean.
well. A clean,
Yeah.
clean collagen, and that's what I'm
Yeah, not
doing. So,
cut with hormones or any kind of crap.
no,
Don't like it
no,
needs to be totally clean.
totally clean. Yeah, like the one that I'm
Yeah.
has like 10 marine peptides, which is what makes up the collagen that I'm
Yeah,
taking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's been huge for me. So that's definitely been a part of like my new toolbox.
But that's a good thing because you're a bit you're doing what I do. You're researching. You're looking for the
Yes,
next best thing. You're looking for the next How can this help me? Where, you know, we're not getting any younger. We're
No.
moving into that, and we're moving into that area. And I know this is probably something that's in the back of your head because it's always in the back of mine. But we are going to be moving into perimenopause. We are going to be moving into that menopause area.
Oh
And
yeah.
we've got a projection from this community that tells us that
Yeah.
when we get to perimenopause and
It's
menopause,
all over with.
it's all over with, and you're going to progress, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And I'm telling you right here and now, and I say it all the time, it's not
It's not
happening
happening.
to me.
Yep. And that's
And the other thing that gets you from that mind is your mindset.
your
As long as
mindset.
you've got your mindset behind that as well, and you'll say to yourself, that's not happening. I'm
Yep.
not allowing that to happen. And you totally believe it. You
You
have
believe
got
it.
to believe
You
what you're
have to.
talking about.
You
Like, if you don't believe what you're talking about, then it's not going to
it's
work.
not going to happen.
You have
It's not.
got to have that mindset shift
Yes.
where
Yes.
you shift out of that process, you shift out of what you're thinking, and you do a 360 on everything you've been told.
Yeah.
A 180, sorry. You do a 180 on everything you've been told, because everything you've been told will
Mhm.
cause you to have more problems.
Problem.
You have to let go of the projection. You have to let go of society telling you that you're not going to be able to do something. The
Yeah.
moment you do that is the moment where your mind shifts,
Yes.
and it shifts to a place of peace, calm,
Yep.
and easy flow. That's what you want. You want flow coming into your life, not difficulty.
Constant
All
chaos.
the time you sit here listening to me and Sarah and thinking, yeah, okay, but that's not going to happen for me. I
Yeah.
can't do that. That's not going to do it. Then you're not shifting your mindset, and it's never going to work.
Nope.
And so you have got to get into that place in your head where you believe that you've
Eva.
already done it.
Yep.
You've
Yep.
already done it. You've already achieved it.
Mm-hmm.
I have been proving this for the last 2 years,
Yep.
and I will continue to keep proving this. And when I first started with this, I didn't think it was something that was real, but it is.
Mm.
If you believe that you can get to that next level, you will get to that next level, but you've got to have it now. So you've got to
Yep.
believe you've already done it. This
Absolutely.
is the old story. You're creating the new
No.
story, but the new story is here. You live the new story as if you've already done it. And
Yep.
trust me, when I say this works, it
It
takes things to the next
it does.
level.
It does. And it's really fascinating too, just watching it play out, because I can say the exact same for me. When I realized I had lipedema, I was like, oh, okay, so this is the answer to what I've been dealing with. All right, now I'm going to manage it. Now I'm going to tackle it, and I'm going to figure it out, and look how far it's gotten me. I never had that, oh, well, I'm just, now I'm scared. Hold on, let me, sounds like somebody turned something on in German. Hold on. It says it's switching us to German. Please substitute for better quality captions. Sorry. I don't know where that came from. But I speak on this also. And that's when when I was letting everybody know that Kath and I were going to do this, I was talking about the fact that Kath and I have both had very, very similar stories. We've used two different approaches, but there's one thing that has been the common denominator in all of it. And that's the fact that both of us said, no, we're not going to just lay down and let this disease just take us over and wake up every day saying, no, well, I'm screwed. I was born with this disease. So now I'm just going to have to live this way. When you switch your mindset and you start to really, really believe in the fact that you can do this, everything changes. Everything slowly begins to change. And I even had a woman comment on one of the reels I posted the other day, and she said something to the effect of, well, this is all great for you, but when menopause kicks in, this is all going to be over with, and it's just going to all go downhill. And I wrote her back and I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. I'm not going to accept
That's exactly my response.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
going
exactly my
to.
response.
No.
I'm quite, yeah, I have an opinion on it. And when someone says to me, like, that's going to happen to you, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's your insecurity, not
Yeah,
mine.
not
Don't
mine.
even bother trying to project it, because it's not going to
Nope.
work.
No.
At the end of the day, Like, you have to think about this. We, from a very big height, I'm going to say it right. Okay. From a very big height, we were projected on for a good year by the government, right?
Mhm.
Okay. That's a projection. It made everybody feel a certain way,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
That's a projection. You either take the projection or you don't take the projection, right? I choose not to let anything society says or what programming is doing or anything that anybody has as an attitude. I choose not to have that in my life. I choose not to have that as part of my world. And in doing that, I am fully successful in reversing these illnesses, reversing my clients' illnesses, building this legacy, which is going to be a legacy, and creating something that scares this community, because
Yeah.
we are here proving that there is something that can be done. And
Yeah.
it's opening up and using our voices. And for years, I kept being told, use your voice, use your voice, use your voice. And I was shut down all the time because
Mhm.
every time I said something, I would get shut down as, you don't understand, you can't do this. Now I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to say it. And if it doesn't agree with
Anyway.
somebody, then it doesn't agree with somebody. And
Yep.
that's the difference. I'm not scared to say it anymore. I'm not scared to show this journey. I'm not scared to put myself out there.
Nope.
I said the other day, I have more support by strangers
Yep.
than I do my family and my friends, for
That's it.
being somebody who has publicly posted their journey of their life,
Yep.
that is put out there to be criticized and torn apart by society. And I go, cool, do it, try it, do what you like. I don't care. You've
Yep.
got to have a strong backbone to be able to get to that stage. And
Yep.
once you do, you start seeing miraculous things
Things
happen
begin
in
to
your
happen.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it because it's so true and it's such a testimony, I think to how far both of us have come, but
Mm,
that really proves just how far so many other women can come too, and
exactly,
this,
exactly that.
and I still look back and I remember, when I began my whole journey and I joined like Lipedema Sisters and I started having all these big changes once I started cutting gluten and refined grains and refined sugars. And I'm coming into the group and I'm like, look at my legs. Look what's happening. Look at these changes here. And it was that
Yeah,
great,
shut down.
but
Yeah.
you don't have lipedema. That's right where
Yeah,
it's
I've
at.
had it all. I've had it all. I've had it all.
Yeah.
And it's so disrespectful to our
It
journeys,
is.
because I have sweated blood and tears. I have gone
Yeah.
through the worst kind of traumas that have got me to today, and I'm grateful for it, because I'm able to teach you guys now. I'm able to give you those facts. I'm able to use my knowledge
Yeah.
and wisdom and give it to you guys. And a lot of the stuff that I do on social media is totally free. Like, you get those tutorials, you get everything that goes on there. And because I'm not going to sit back and just be like, I'm going to hoard it and keep it for myself. I'm going to move forward and give
Mm-mm.
it to you guys, because you deserve to live a life
Yep.
that you are worthy of, and you're told that you're not.
Yes.
Like, you are worthy of healing. Trust me.
Absolutely. Yes. And that was one of the biggest turning points in my journey, I think, is when I really sat here and finally just had to believe that I deserve to live a happy life just like everybody else,
Yeah,
and I think when we grow up with this condition, everybody makes us feel so small and we
yeah.
feel so invalued and so worthless. And so when we get into our
But
adult
that
life,
was a way of keeping them. That was a way of keeping you down. That was a way of like keeping you on that low,
yeah,
Sarah. And
yeah,
that is what I've had to figure from my life. I've had to cut the people out. I've had to make the
yes,
boundaries. I've had to stick to the boundaries.
yeah,
Like, everybody around you doesn't want you to succeed. I know it doesn't sound great, but it's true. Like,
yeah,
if you're on the up, it makes people uncomfortable because they're not on the up.
that's
And
right.
so the people around you will try and keep you at a lower vibration 24/7. I work with energy. I am an energy healer. I
Mm.
keep my life on a high vibration. And the
Yeah,
people that are on that vibration are people who are up here. And the people that are on the lower vibration are the people that I used to have in my life. There are people that still live in this town who I never ever see. And do you want to know why I don't see them? Because they can't hit that vibration.
Yep.
They're down here, I'm up here. And that's what you've got to think for yourselves. I want to be on that higher vibration of healing myself.
Yes. Which means you've got to cut the energy suckers because they are,
Yeah.
and they will suck you dry of any good
Yeah.
energy that you have
100%.
and just absolutely deplete you. So, so important. Um, we still have a lot of questions and we're getting pretty low on time. So, um, let me see here. Just a few, that we haven't really touched on. How can I find a doctor in my area who actually understands lipedema and knows how to guide me? Um, that's up to you if you want to take it or I can take it, either one.
Okay, if you're on here in the UK, you would need to go to your GP with every kind of evidence that you can get. You can get that from me. And you would need to go and see dermatology first, and then you would be referred to a lymphedema clinic, but it's far and few between.
Yeah.
So you would, yeah, you'd need to go to the doctor, say to the doctor what you think you've got. That begins the fight, and then that's why I'll back you with evidence and talk lipedema as well. We'll give you the evidence, the doctor's letter that you can take with you, that just suggests that you get referred straight away to the lymphedema clinic.
Yeah. And for us, here in the United States, there are a lot of websites that you can go to. If you just do a simple Google search, finding a lipedema specialist, plug it in your zip code, and it'll bring up, you could choose how far you'd be willing to travel. But like Cass said, they're very few and far between, and they also tend to be very expensive. So,
See, that's the difference with you guys. It's either insurance or
yeah,
payment, isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
insurance or self-pay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it definitely makes it tough. Let's see here. If you could buy one tool to help the fascia, which tool would it be? What do you think is the most important thing you have done to help fight against lipedema?
But it's the gun.
What'd you say?
It's the gun.
That's the gun. That's the one that
Yeah.
you're talking about, right?
Yeah. 100%, I would say this is the tool that you need.
Okay.
100%. It is the gun.
Yep.
And then it is the dry brush. The gun works your tissue, the dry brush works your lymphatics. And that's what my treatment pretty much is in this clinic. It's just I do it through fascia therapy using tools as well. So I've got like my instrument tools. These are going to look bad, but I use these types of tools to work through. They are completely non-invasive. I know they don't look it. Um, but and then obviously I do a combination of three types of reflexology and massage therapy. So I was looking for something that mimics what I do, and the gun and the brush work as a combination. But then recently I have come up with some others which I'm loving at the moment, which is the rollerball, and then we've got the large gua sha, which you use for the lymphatics. So you've got your fascia, lymphatics. This is an easier combination to take on holiday, for instance, rather than walking through the airport with a gun. I'm not sure in the States that's going to go down well. And the dry brush, but I would always take the dry brush as well. But these are really light and easy to pack. So there's definitely things that I would suggest to do. I'm seeing things about vibration coming up. If someone's talking about vibration plate. So I'm not a massive fan of vibration plates because I've got hypermobility. However, there are hundreds of women out there who use them and have a good time with vibration plates. And it works for their lymphatics. So I think, again, it's a research thing. You can come and talk to us about these tools. You can come and talk to me about these tools, but I will always tell you to go away and do the research because I need to know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that was asked, thoughts about Ozempic and lipedema. Is it a good idea to take Ozempic? Um,
Uh,
this is a sensitive topic. And I know that this topic draws out some pretty big opinions.
yeah.
In my personal opinion, I don't, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I hate it. It's horrible. My mom's on it and she loves it. She says it calms all of her food noise, but by the time the shot runs out, she's back to, having thoughts of binge eating and everything. For her, she loves it. What I will say is for those of you who are younger, I would highly suggest you do everything you can before you try the route of introducing those drugs to your body.
So the best way that you can talk about this, I think, Sarah, is that the forums have got there's so much being spoken about
Mm-hmm.
on the lipedema forums on Facebook
Yep.
about this. And I think Ozempic with Wegovy, Majerno,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole array of these drugs. These drugs are not, they're not for us, they are for diabetics, they are for diabetes. And people have been told to use them for inflammation purposes. And from what I can gather, what I've seen, which is really disturbing, is that people are using it post surgery because they're being prescribed it post surgery for inflammation issues. However, the moment you come away from that, the inflammation and the
It
fat
all
comes back, and
returns.
that is what you have got to take on board.
Yep.
This is not a fix. This is
Nope.
a very temporary fix. And there was one woman, I can't remember her name, but there was a woman who was talking about it, and she said on one of the forums that she'd been on it for a year and she went to come off it, and because she had to come off it because the insurance changed. So she was taking Wegovy or Majerno or whatever it was, and she'd been taking it for a year, but then her insurance cut it and she couldn't get it covered by insurance and she couldn't afford it. Well, it came back like you wouldn't believe.
Mm.
And she did everything she could to try and stop that, but it was like her body just wouldn't
Just what?
change. But what it's done and what I've seen in the post is it's come back and some.
Yeah. 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 And that's
And
why.
I think that that is because we have got a progressive disease, and that's what people have got to take on board.
Right.
That okay, you've got it under control, but we've got a progressive disease. We
Yes.
can control progression, but in the science that goes along with those drugs, my fear, and I'm not the scientist and I can't say it, but my fear is that the moment you come away from those drugs, your progression is actually going to be 100 times more
Yep.
than what it was before. And so I really think that there needs to be a lot more research done by doctors, done by professionals to understand what those drugs are actually doing to our body.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely agree with that. Let's see here. How do you know it's lipedema and not just being overweight? Someone asked. Do you want to talk on that?
Okay, I don't. I've said. Can I just say this? I'm going to say this on the live because I keep seeing so many people saying, "Can I connect with you, Kaz?" Can just if you're following me at Kaz Talks, KazTalks. Go follow me at Kaz Talks. You can use the key there to message me. It goes straight to my email, or just send me a DM, and then that way I can talk to you because I can't talk to you personally on this live. Like there's so many of you, there's no way I can do that.
No.
And going back to that question, it's really difficult. It's
Yeah.
really bloody difficult. You have got to look at the symptoms that you're suffering from. So, are you suffering from bruising? Are you suffering from abnormalities in the skin? Can you feel beading underneath the skin? Can you feel stuck areas or clumpy areas underneath the skin? Are you inflaming a lot with this? Are foods affecting you? Because unfortunately it is on the outside. Like what we see is on the outside, we don't see what goes on inside. And so obesity and lipedema, they do look the same, and that's the problem that we've got. And the same when I did my post today, lipedema and cellulite looks like orange peel effect on the surface and the skin, and it's only a surfaceable problem, whereas lipedema is a disease, a loose connective tissue disease inside the skin. And but the difference is they look the same on the surface because the beads are pushing into the skin and coming through that way. And we've got cellulite over here, which is being pulled by the connective tissue, which makes the orange peel effect, but it's only surfaceable. So we've got a major problem, and a lot of the time I get told, not like I've been told in the past, not to use the word obesity alongside lipedema. Well, in my case, in my story, I was diagnosed stage 3. I definitely wasn't a stage 3. I was way smaller, but I was chunked up with a lot of connective tissue disease, problems within my fascia, but I was also carrying a lot of obesity.
Extra weight.
And the reason why I couldn't lose it was because of the tissue. Um, I was weighing in at 26 and a half stone. And when I went on a live on Lymphcast, they said that that was 364 pounds.
Wow.
And so that,
Where are
and
you
then when
at?
I did that Lymphcast podcast, when I did that and I was talking to the doctors, which it was really good talking to this particular doctor because he really got it and he understood it, and he turned around to me and he said to me, but it wasn't all lipedema, was it? And I said no, but because nobody knew that, I was diagnosed it at stage 3 anyway,
Right.
because I was presenting in that manner and in that varsity with the disease. But it doesn't mean to say that that is who you are and that is what the disease is. And I've proved that time and time again
Yeah.
in my clinic with my clients. But again, I'm going to say it again, if the fascia is not working, if your fascia is really, really stuck, then how can you release that natural fat and metabolize it? That's what I want women to walk away from today, is to not feel the guilt of not being able to do that, because it's our bodies that are letting us down, not us letting ourselves down. I would imagine that the majority of people that are on this live are people who are actually trying to help themselves.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we're getting pretty close to time here. We've had several questions that I just have not been able to get to. I tried to pick the ones that were kind of the most important and the ones that we're going to focus a lot more on what Kaz.
We can do a round 2.
Yeah, we can do a round 2. I tried to keep these questions more focused on what Kaz specializes in, since she does have such a different method
Yeah.
than I do. Does anybody, real quick, I know Kaz has clients that she has to get to in the next like 7 minutes, so we can't drag it out too long. But does anybody have like any pressing questions that they would like to ask while she is still here?
Fire it at me. Go.
Anyone at all?
Just open up your mic. Ask the question.
Everybody gets scared. I know that's how I am in a big group. I'm like, I'll have like 5 questions, but I'm like, I don't want to be the one to sit up and talk.
I've got something I could ask if you.
Hello.
Hello. I'm in the UK in Devon. Thank you for the info. I can read all your stuff after this is over and connect that way. But in the last 2 weeks or 10 days, and I never had this before, I have a lipedema and lymphedema, and I got raw patches on my legs. Now my left leg is swelling with the lymphedema, and I've got 2 very horrible raw patches, which they're coming into dress. Never had this before. I never had any broken skin. And it's suddenly, and I think I mean, I haven't heard what you said about fascia blasters and things, so I've read about them in the past, but I've only known that it's lipedema in the last 3 years. I'm 81. I've been to lots of people to discuss my overweight. I fast a lot. My metabolism obviously doesn't work, and I don't know what. It's saying German. Confirm your speaking language.
Yeah,
No, just keep talking.
All right, okay. I don't know how I would begin. I mean, obviously, I'm going to write to you and connect and find some way what you do, maybe become a client. I don't know. But I can't use a fascia blaster on raw skin, and my leg
No.
is swelling like this now. Only the last 10 days, and I've never had any broken skin. And it only really started like this to get the lymphedema and stuff after the surgery for appendicitis and peritonitis.
Right, okay, so you've had a traumatic event, and so your lymphatics are impaired.
Yeah.
What you really need is compression therapy right now.
I've
Can you
got
connect to me? Are you in the UK?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Devon.
Right, okay. Send me a message and we'll find the nearest lymphedema clinic and we'll get you compression
I'm
therapy.
in a lymphedema clinic, but they don't seem to know what you know. I've been going for 2 years, twice a year, but they don't know anything. They just gave me some.
I know. I need to cut myself into a million pieces and throw myself around.
No, I'm going to read your stuff.
Advice, then you can go to them and say, this is what I need.
Okay. So let me write to you. Let me read your stuff and write to you and connect that way.
Okay.
You've got things to do. Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
I'll stick around. I can stick around for a few extra minutes. I know, like I said, Cass has clients that she has to get to. But if anybody has like any other questions, I don't mind to stick around.
Yeah, we've got one here. Go.
So I'm at a stage a half where it's a very unique, because I'm not even stage 1 yet. And I am a bit overwhelmed by the amount of things you can do. Well, I'm very, very early and I'm trying to find what works for me. And so do you have any experience with people in a very, very early stage and what works best? And I've been doing fascia blasting for 2 years because it felt good before I knew my diagnosis.
Are you dry brushing?
I am, yeah. And also a vibration plate. So I'm doing a lot. And it feels almost like I'm doing too much in a way.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So a lot of the time I come across people who are doing too much too soon.
Yeah.
The best thing that I can suggest that you can do is if you write to me as well, and I'll talk you through it. What I want you to do is write to me and tell me everything you're doing, because we do come across that quite a lot where people are doing too much, and actually doing too much causes more of a problem. If you are a low stage, then I would literally want you to be using the gun and using the dry brush, for instance, and that would be it. I wouldn't want you doing anything else other than nutrition and exercise. That's it.
Let me send you an email, because I have an Excel sheet. I'm quite organized, and I'm a researcher as profession. And so I'm going a bit too much. I can feel myself doing it. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's not a problem. We can sort it out. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let that all go, and it'll be totally fine. I promise you. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to go. The client was ringing then because she's saying she's outside the building. If you want to get in contact with me at Kaz Talks or info at Sculpt and Change at gmail.com. Send me an email. I'm happy to work with anybody. I'm happy to help with anything. Sarah, you have been amazing. Thank you for letting me come on. It's been fabulous talking to you, and I will catch up with you, just the two of us.
You're good.
And I think we should definitely 100% do this again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for devoting your time.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So I've talked to Jeanette about that as well, and you know, the fact that there very well could be cellulitis. And I know that you have in-home nurses with you too, right?
I have twice a week somebody comes to change the dressing. That's all. But they don't know anything, and they don't do anything, and they say talk to a doctor. But the doctors know, excuse me, nothing. They don't know anything. At least they don't in England anyway. Don't seem to know.
And you've been dealing with this for a few weeks now, right?
I've been dealing with the sores on my legs for 10 days. That's all. That's it. I never had a broken skin anywhere, but suddenly my legs started to swell up more. Skin burst, and I got one and then another, and these little bare patches of skin peeling off became horrible yellow things, and now they're calling them ulcers.
Because they're probably filling with pus. Are you seeing like yellowish colored stuff coming out of them?
Well, I don't see it, but I do, except when they take it off. They've got these big elastic plasters over it. No, but today the nurse was here when the GP rang, because I'd asked for a telephone appointment, because the nurse had told me that they couldn't give any advice. They could just change the dressing. So I did, and they happened to be here. The ring would come and arrive at 10:30, the same time. So I put them to talk to each other, and the nurse said it looked worse than it did last week. So the GP said, well, she better take antibiotics then. So I don't take it. I don't take those things ever normally, but I'd rather than my leg getting sepsis, I'd taken them.
And I understand, because I don't like to take medications either, but
but I don't want sepsis, and I can deal with the outcome of the antibiotics later.
You've got to get on. So you're not taking the antibiotics yet?
Sorry?
You're not taking any antibiotics yet?
Yes, I am. They came within 2 hours. He sent them up urgently, which was amazing. Yes. I can't go anywhere. And I don't have a car at the moment either. I couldn't drive it anyway. So I'm dealing with sores on my legs, which I'd never had ever. I never had any raw skin or any broken skin. And suddenly it's become a crisis rather than a chronic condition. So there you are.
Do you have any way that you could get to a hospital and have somebody else check you out?
Well, I could if I had somebody to take me. I went to get an X-ray because my leg was a bit distorted from childhood, and that's happening separately. That the physio sent me to that 2 days ago. But I had to get a friend who lives in Israel to take me. She happened to be here, so I can't manage even getting a taxi. I have to have somebody to take me there because I can't walk that far at the moment. So it's complicated. Yes, it may be possible.
What about an ambulance?
What about what?
An ambulance?
No. I'm going to send an ambulance for legs. I mean,
but it could. But
listen.
How serious this can get very, very quickly. I mean, honestly, I really think it's in your best interest that you do get to
I have an appointment to go and see a doctor. The first one I could get is in a week. And in the meantime, I have the nurses coming and checking, and I've started antibiotics. So he wants me to take this week, and then at the end of that, I've got a service here that I can actually engage with notice, several days notice. I can do these things, but it's not what they've said today. They said take the antibiotics, which I've already started.
Okay.
Take one. So let's see what that can do, if you can take it down. There's also, I am doing endless things, but I don't know all these things that you're talking about, and I want to know about the other things. I rebound. I have been doing that for years. I haven't eaten anything processed or sugary or any shop stuff, for years.
Sure.
For years, I've done regular fasting and regular juicing and stuff. So I've always had a tendency to put on weight. So I've always watched that. So it's not like I can stop anything else. I'm just looking at new supplements, but I've only just started yours.
Started the supplement. Yeah.
So I can't start rushing to do other things till I've actually given it a couple of days more to do what yours. And I was going to take it a few more days, then ask you about it, and I am taking antibiotics.
Isn't going to do anything for like cellulitis in the leg. So you want to make sure you're still taking the supplement just to keep maintaining that on a daily basis. But
I'm taking your collagen.
Okay. Okay, good.
That's what you mean by supplements, is it?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. So,
yeah. I'm taking that. No,
but that's not going to have anything to do with the sores that are on your leg.
no. But I am doing what I can to keep the circulation
Sure.
going.
You
I'm
are.
doing. I mean, I have weekly reflexology and leg massage. Except that since I've started the sores, she's not been doing round there, leaving that. But she does reflexology and I do qigong. I do a lot of energy practice. I'm a qualified yoga teacher. I've done trainings in many things. So I'm using some of the things I know. What
Sure.
I love about you is and the people here, it's that there's a group, and I haven't found any groups yet on the internet that I value. Well, not that I value, that I could feel, but today it feels more, well, more real somehow. I don't know. It feels good. So I'm not panicking about it. I just know that I'm going to see if we can reduce the inflammation in the sores. I'm doing a vegetable juice fast and then possibly a water fast, but I don't want to do water fast while I'm doing antibiotics. So I'm doing the juice and like a little tiny bit of mashed avo or something like that. So I'm taking a lot of care in the ways that I know. I want from you, all of you, your experience and your knowledge, which is more than what I know. I know a lot, but I don't know all of this. So
Well,
that's what I want.
right now, all of the things that you're doing for managing the lipedema, those are all great, but I wouldn't put those on the front burner right now. Right now,
No,
the biggest thing that you need to stay focused on is reducing these sores and healing these
exactly.
sores.
Well, I just started today, so I think in 2 or 3 days, I feel they will go down. But what I'm bothered about is a little bit. Is I have never seen my left leg, so swollen. It's like
So,
it's huge, and I've never seen that. Although they have been swollen, not like this. So
and you are using compression on a daily basis?
I've just taken it off because I had the nurse here earlier.
Are you still able to wear it?
I've got a sleeve that you pull on. I've got one for the other leg as well, which doesn't
Okay,
really need it. But I'm using and when I wash them, I have to wash them because they stretch,
sure.
and they're very good. I've been doing that for quite a while, but doesn't seem to do very much. But I do it anyway. And I've got to go back to the lymphedema clinic the end of May or middle of May, something like that. So
Well, let's see how you do. Make sure you keep me posted. Let me know how things go with the antibiotic and if your leg starts healing, because that's where we need you right now. We need you healing.
we need before we really do any of these other tools that you're mentioning.
Yes.
I mean, I was doing skin brushing as well, which obviously I'm not doing on that leg anymore. But I am also doing the 6 points of the lymph. I mean, doing self lymph massage. You know, on the
Oh yeah, just doing it yourself and massaging your lymph nodes and
yeah. The collarbones and under the arm and down the neck and all the way down in the groins. Been doing that for quite a while, a
good,
few months.
good.
So,
And that's something that's still absolutely okay for you to do. I would just avoid anything that's going to be direct contact with your legs. That's
I can't make contact with the legs because they're covered with one of these special plasters to
okay.
the rest, so there's no way they can get touched. It's just that the leg round the plasters is also now getting red. But let's see what happens over the next couple of days with the antibiotics. I do realize it's become a bit more of a crisis than it was when I first spoke with you.
Yes, and remember I told you when we first talked that that's really, really serious, and we want to make sure that you stay on top of that so that it doesn't.
But I'd never known. It's 3-4 years since I had that surgery, and it was that I'd had heavy legs before and fat legs, but not like this. And so it started to get worse over that, and my ability to walk has gone down. And
Well, it sounds like the lymphedema is suddenly really just kicking in for some reason. So, especially if you're only experiencing the severe swelling in one leg, is that
only in one leg. Well, the other one is oh, I don't know, medium, I suppose. This one is quite huge now. Yeah.
okay.
But it's only in a certain position. It's from between the shin and the lower calf, and it's about 6 inches. It's red, and it's got these two big sores. but not really anywhere else. Yes, I'm a bit swollen, and it's the lipedema definitely, but so it's only in that one single location. Very interesting. Don't really understand why. I was looking at what that part of the leg meant, but I haven't, And then I remembered to come on here quickly. Oh, quick.
Do you have any photos of it you could maybe send me?
Sorry?
Do you have any photos of it at all?
I can take photos of my legs, yes.
Yeah, I maybe do that and send it over to me and let me see,
that you are a beacon, and people who are you've gathered together as well. It's just like, oh, here's some people actively seeing what we can do, because I do know that in everything else in my life, it's what I actually play with. And obviously I've got this challenge now to do it myself. So instead of talking with people, running groups, I'm dealing with me.
So much when you find people that I speak on it all the time. You have to find your tribe and those people that go and understand what you're going through and that can be there to support you. So,
and I do know when you say that it's what we can do, and I recognize it in you and what Kaz is saying as well, is that without that basic, that's the bottom line, that this is what I intend, my blueprint body. I want this. I don't care that I'm 81. I don't feel 81.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that for you.
So it's that is fundamental. Anything I do, any session, anything, I begin with this. I am that I am, and this is my will, my choice in this lifetime.
That's what I always tell everybody. It's never too late to start and to take your health back, both mentally and
but it's interesting because I feel lipedema has to be a niche thing to do with the world chaos, and I see it connected so much with all the debris and the unintegrated, unresolved situations, the emotional stuff, all of it. And I feel it's important. And the reason I feel I'm doing this is because it's part of our future of the world.
Yes.
And 81, people think, oh no, it doesn't matter how old you are.
No, it's you gotta, doesn't matter how old you are, you want to feel good. We all want to feel good. It's so important that we are all feeling good, and that doesn't matter for 40, 50, 60, 70,
Well, I can't walk on the stage anymore at this. I can't talk like this. I don't want people say, you're going in a wheelchair. That's not the wheelchair. If I'm like this, what can I be telling other people anything? So it's just small groups at the moment. So back to dealing with this. So thank you so much, all of you.
Welcome.
The energy is lovely.
Well, I've got to get back to work. Did anybody else have anything before I end this? Everybody good? All right. Well, thank you guys for being here today. It's so nice to see all of you. And Kaz is amazing. I'm so glad that
she's lovely, isn't she? I must read up about her now.
Yeah, she is amazing. So if any of you need any help getting in touch with Kaz, just shoot me a message and let me know. But otherwise, we'll do another live here soon, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.